pretty much doubled our top line in that time frame. And we've been profitable every year except 2022. It's a very difficult year for us. Sometimes the only solution is to throw money at a problem. And I think a lot of businesses were doing that when you couldn't get any product. You were paying exorbitant fees for transportation. Google was sharing data about their expectations of Q4. They're actually expecting a very good Q4. They really expect the consumer to be out and spending money and shopping really hard in Q4. We're concerned as DTC marketers, we're really concerned about potential rising CAC because of how much campaign money is going into platforms.
Elections.
And there's hundreds of millions of dollars being pumped in. So we know the value of this gentleman named Kunle, who lives in this zip code, who bought on this offer through this channel, will have a very high predictive degree of what his worth is going to be to us. And that'll allow us to figure out how much money we want to spend to get more Kunles tomorrow. That will drive our CAC. And the better we are at predicting it, the more comfortable we feel with adjusting CAC guardrails on a daily basis.
Want to know the secret behind scaling a D2C brand to $20 million while staying profitable? Kelley Thornton from Tiege reveals the strategy in this episode. Don't miss it.
It's the 2X eCommerce Podcast, hosted by Kunle Campbell.
So warm welcome to another exciting episode of the 2X eCommerce Podcast. Today, we dive into the story of Kelley Thornton, founder of Tiege Hanley, and how his innovative approach to men's skincare turned his company into a thriving e-commerce brand. Kelley shares insights on product innovation, subscription models, and strategies for navigating challenges like rising acquisition costs and supply chain disruptions. If you're looking for actionable tips on scaling a DTC brand or business in the face of adversity, this is an episode you don't want to miss. Also, don't forget to follow the podcast on your preferred platform. Your support helps us bring more incredible guests like Kelley and valuable content. Let's get started. So welcome back, Kelley. It's great to have you back on the show. Last time we spoke, it was back in, I can't believe it, October 2020. We had a fascinating conversation about how you and your team scaled Tiege Hanley to an 8-figure business in just 2 years, which is phenomenal. We discussed the power of influencer marketing, especially strategic partnership with Aaron Marino, also known as Alpha M, who helped Tiege Hanley be the voice, just get a voice up on YouTube. You shared insights on your innovative subscription model, which achieved an impressive 95% subscription rate, which is unheard of. We delved into like your content strategy, focusing on the importance of like long-term influencer relationships and decisions to focus on YouTube as your primary channel. There's a lot we got on this inspirational, I think it's one of the most downloaded episodes for that year. And it's amazing to have you on. I've seen you a lot on LinkedIn. I was like, we have to catch up again. So a very warm welcome, Kelley.
Thank you, Kunle. I am excited to talk to you. And you hit on some really interesting points when we think back the last 4 years. It's like almost like dog years. That was like 30 years ago in DTC world. So excited to talk to you.
Brilliant. Are you still based in Illinois?
We're in Chicago. You're downtown Chicago. And for those who are outside the country that are paying attention to politics, we have the Democratic National Convention next week on 2 blocks over from us, which is at the United Center, which is where the Bulls and the Blackhawks play their sports season. And the convention for the Democrats are going to be there. We're all a little bit nervous about it because in 1968, I don't know if that was the last convention that was in Chicago, but it was a crazy convention with a lot of protesters. So we're hoping for a calm few weeks here, Tiege Hanley headquarters.
So it's in a hockey arena.
Yeah, it's a big sports arena that's sponsored by United Airlines, and the Chicago Bulls play there and the Chicago Blackhawks play there. So it's probably a 30,000 seat, I'm just guessing, 25 to 35,000 seat arena. And that's where that's the primary place for the Democratic Convention. The building has already told us that they don't suggest that our office stays open. So, yeah.
How do you run? Because I'm very familiar with Chicago. I was there actually 2 years ago. How do you manage an e-com? Is your fulfillment center in Chicago or outside of Chicago? How do you manage an e-com brand in Chicago downtown?
Yeah, all of first off, our offices and our warehouse are in the same building, and we have contiguous space. So we have our finance and operations office and our customer experience office, and then all of our marketing and e-commerce and CRM data. So we have that whole configuration, and then we have two primary warehouses and a warehouse where we do our own in-house packing and shipping. So we have quite a few square feet here, maybe 18,000 total, something in that nature. And we are in downtown Chicago, and we are very much work from office type of company. So we have a flexible 3-2 hybrid. We were in a lot during those COVID years. We were in office a lot. We'd be in office, and then we'd be out of office for 3 weeks, and we'd be back in for a week. And so we're really good at having people work from office, but having the flexibility of working from at home or remotely for a couple of days a week. And we're also summer hours, so everybody's out of the office on Fridays.
Yeah. Chicago is a beautiful city to live in. We had our first son in Chicago about 13 years ago, and
Wow.
I just relish every moment of that experience. Okay, let's talk about your P&L. I like to start out with P&L management, profitability and growth. You were already profitable at the time in 2020 when we discussed it's 4 years on. Have you managed to profitably continue scaling Tiege Hanley for the past few years? And what key metrics do you focus on in your P&L?
Yeah, we've continued. So we've pretty much doubled our top line in that time frame. And we've been profitable every year except 2022. It's a very difficult year for us. A lot of capital went into managing supply. So we had a very tough time making sure that we had product delivered and on time and product to sell to our customers. And it cost us a lot of money to manage it. And looking back, we probably could have done a better job. Sometimes the only solution is to throw money at a problem. And I think a lot of people were doing that. A lot of businesses were doing that when you couldn't get any product. You were paying exorbitant fees for transportation. Stuff was getting stuck on the sea for months and months. So we've been profitable ever since. The goal is to run the business at least at 10% EBITDA. And it's a very hard concept to both grow top line and grow bottom line for startup companies, especially when you're trying to build a brand from scratch. It's very difficult. And as a company, you need to be extremely capital efficient. And when you have no outside capital, you're not sitting with 5 or 6 or 10 large in the bank. You have to be very careful how you spend money. You can get into some very bad habits. So we've been profitable every year except 22. We've been profitable every month and every quarter in 2024. Although I found that 24 has been much harder than we expected. We had a very big number for us that would be in the low 20 million range in revenue, in that 20 to 25 million in revenue range. We've pulled back on it a little bit as the year went on. So we budget going into the year. At the end of Q1, we make any budget adjustments to a 2024.1 budget. And then at the end of Q2, 2024.2, and so forth and so on. And we've been reducing our expectations on our top line through Q2 and into Q3. We'll see what happens in September when we readjust. Fortunately, we've done this before, and we've actually adjusted our budget higher after reducing it. And we've picked up a little steam heading into the fall. I know we will have our best year top line ever, but I'm afraid it'll come at a few points being shaved off of EBITDA.
Which is fair, given the headwinds at the moment. So really everything boils down to Q4 right now, because we're recording this in August, in mid-August, right?
Yeah. And I tell you, I've got an interesting hot take on this. I was just at a conference at Google's YouTube facility, Santa Clara, right in LA last week. And Google was sharing data about their expectations of Q4. They're actually expecting a very good Q4. They really expect the consumer to be out and spending money and shopping really hard in Q4. When you think about it, it's interesting. We're concerned as DTC marketers. We're really concerned about potential rising CAC because of how much campaign money is going into platforms.
Elections.
And there's hundreds of millions of dollars being pumped into all the digital platforms that we are so active on. And what is that going to do to CAC and our ability to advertise? And can we even compete? Can we break through the election news to get the ear of the consumer? Is the consumer going to be tuning out that news and all those ads? And so we don't know that. And we're concerned about that. And we're very apprehensive. But I think as we go in, the election's early November. I think once we get beyond that, there may be a bit of relief in the market with the consumer. And the consumer might be like, okay, that shit's behind us. Let's really think about the people we love and care about. And let's rejoice a little bit. And I know the Bank of England lowered rates their last meeting. Yep. We haven't seen any rates being lowered here. The next Fed meeting is next month, mid to September 23rd, something like this. I expect the Fed follows the Bank of England and reduces rates. If we got as much as a 0.5 point rate, again, I don't think that's going to matriculate its way into the market like the following week. Most consumers don't all pay attention to this, but it does mean that we'll see lower rates on people's credit card bills, and maybe they're paying 20% interest on their outstanding balance. Maybe it'll come down to 18 or 17 or something like this. Mm-hmm. And car loans will get less expensive. Mortgage rates will get less expensive. And ultimately, we want consumers to feel good about themselves and their ability to afford the general things in life. Hopefully, they'll see the price of food come down just a bit. And so I feel very optimistic about the consumer's mindset going into Q4. I really do. I think we'll get consumer bounce here in early to mid-November post-election, regardless of the outcome of the election, because this is just obviously everybody in the world's paying attention. It was a messy election here for a lot of reasons. So consumers are, to the best of my ability, what I know and think from my team and from my friends is the politics these days have really worn people down. They're really turned off by it. So we'll see. I'm very bullish about Q4.
Yes, I putting it in that context of the fact that the elections will be at the start of November, and obviously BFCM is at the end of November.
Yes.
It would most certainly release inventory quite dramatically. It would just make it a flush, or at least it would normalize things. It would normalize things.
It's going to be very interesting to see what's going on with inventory, ad buying, and our ability to make noise out there from probably early October, probably like mid-September through early November. Elections on the 4th. These campaigns are going to spend like $100 million each. It's just going to be bananas. Easy. So we can't compete with that. And it'll just really be interesting to see what happens to CPAs. We saw earlier in the summer, we saw higher CPAs than we're seeing right now. We're seeing more efficient ad spend in August than we have in the last couple months. Don't know why. Maybe it's the calm before the storm. Honestly, that's what I think. I think it's a calm before the storm. I think there was probably a lot of spending going into the primary and into the conventions. Maybe it's a little calm before the storm right now. But I think before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the consumer is going to be excited about holiday. I know I'm going to be, because all this crap's going to be behind us.
Yeah. It'd be refreshing for sure. What was your experience back in 2020? Because the last election cycle was 2020, wasn't it? November
Yeah.
2020. What impact? Do you recall the impact it had on media buying?
I wasn't paying as close attention to it. And here are the reasons why. Most of what was going on in our business was fairly like steady. Hiring was like not it was a reasonable expectation to be able to hire. Inflation wasn't crazy. People were still making a decent amount of money. So we didn't have a lot of the pressures that came from the COVID years, the post-COVID years, and then high inflation. Again, I think the high inflation was driven from US macroeconomic policies during COVID and how much money was pumped into the economy, how much cash was pumped into the economy. Consumers went crazy. Consumers drive everything. Consumer spending is what drives the entire economy. So consumers went crazy in 2022. They weren't doing anything in 2020. They were hunkered down. They were pretty hunkered down in their houses in 2021. And in 2022, everybody came back out on the streets. We're going to restaurants. We're traveling. We're going to concerts. We're going to sports events. They were just rejoicing to be out and about. And then in 2023, people are out, but prices have gotten so expensive. It's very expensive to go to a restaurant here in Chicago. Sunday night, I was going for a walk in my neighborhood, and my wife and I, there's a new restaurant that opened. We haven't been able to get in. The two of us went in there. We split a hamburger. We split a salad. We both had a glass of wine, and it was 117 USD. That's a lot when you're splitting a salad and a hamburger. We're not talking about a steak or, that's a lot of cash when you're talking about splitting a meal, having 2 glasses of wine. It's just insane. So people are like saying, screw this. I'm not going to be going out as much. So anyway, I think Q4 will be great. I think we need to get the election behind. I wasn't paying attention to as much. And then, of course, interest rates have been so high, right? There's not a lot of capital out there. And businesses, a lot of businesses I know, a lot of DCC businesses I know are just barely making it or closing shop because it's just really freaking hard.
It is out there. It is. And lots of the conversations I'm having with operators is echoing your exact sentiments right now. If something's not done, I think particularly in the States, there's a need for a drop in interest rates. So we could see the effects in Q4 at the very worst to increase the share of wallet in D2C and discretionary income. Okay, let's talk about cost management.
Sure.
So with inflation and supply chain disruptions impacting many businesses, how have you managed to just curtail your cost, particularly in regards to talent? And what adjustments have you made to maintain margins? You just mentioned the fact that you might have to take a hit by a few points on your bottom line, even though top line is going to grow.
Yeah, I'll talk quickly about it both from the operational side and then also from the marketing side where we spend all our money. From the operational side, our operations team is constantly doing things to look at our vendors and our supply logistics to see whether or not there's cost to be taken out. And our biggest costs are shipping costs, labor cost of goods. So we're crazy fortunate to have multiple vendors to produce our products. We own our own formulas. We ask contract manufacturers to produce them. So we have a little bit of leverage because of that. If we were white labeling products where we didn't own the formula, it wouldn't allow us to take our formula ownership and give it to someone else and code. So we're constantly making sure that we're getting the right costs from our products. On shipping, my shipping team, our in-house transportation team is constantly, they were here for two hours talking to vendors about rates going into Q4 and next year. So we're constantly talking to DHL, FedEx, Ascendia, USPS, UPS. And once every 12 months, at the very minimum, you need to go to the areas where you're spending the most amount of money, and you need to do an RFP to make sure that your prices are in line. So I think like on the operational side, that's what we're trying to do. And then we're also trying to push back to the extent that we can, Kunle, with our vendors and not accepting price increases on certain things. I'm just saying we're not going to accept a price increase on packaging, and we'll just have to go to another vendor and buy that packaging. So that's on the operations side. On the marketing side, we're just looking really super careful at marketing mix and the overarching number that we talk about regularly, which is MER, our marketing efficiency ratio, which is really just our total spend to our total acquisition. That's the healthy metric to look at. We look at everything down on a channel level, but we're looking at MER overall to see how we're doing with our marketing mix and really keeping our total marketing expense down below. We love our marketing expense to be in the 25, 26. It's almost impossible. Sometimes it pushes 30% of our total revenue. 31, 32%. 32% is we can't live with it, but yeah. It's so we were seeing earlier in the year our marketing expense ratio to be closer to that 31, 30, 31. And we've just been much more efficient, renegotiated some contracts with some of our content providers and pulled our marketing expense down, cut anything that's not clearly returning capital to us, and constantly tweaking the marketing mix to make sure that all of our channels are, and anything we're looking at it every single day. So anything that looks like it's out of whack, we'll look at it right away. And if we're spending too much money, and we'll cut back on it immediately. We're not taking any big swings. So we're not swinging for the fences on anything right now, which means we're not spending $100,000 a month on TV ad placements. Yeah. We're not putting any money in any magazines. We're not doing contracts with any sports talent. We're not taking any big swings at all. We just can't afford it. We can't afford to drop $100,000 on something and it not perform for us. So we're being super conservative about how we're spending money on all our marketplaces. Same thing, like tacos on Amazon, pulling back on those as well, and being much more capital efficient, being really intentional about what keywords, what we're spending money on, how we're spending money versus our competitors, those type of things. So also on the marketing side, taking a look at vendors and making sure any marketing SaaS, anything that we're not using, anything that's not driving a business deliverables for us on the marketing side, we're cutting. Any contract with new vendors to do work, we will require the shortest possible contract that we can get into. We're not going to get into a long-term contract with a vendor, any sort of service vendor that may not work out and be beneficial. We don't want to be locked into any long-term contract. So just being really conservative across the board on how we're spending money.
Kelley, thanks. Speaking about the operations, really interesting insights. I'm sure the guests would have been able to take some of the points you made there, which is always negotiating. You talked about shipping, negotiating your shipping rates with all of the carriers. You talked, I think that flexibility in owning your formula, particularly in beauty, is so important. So you could easily switch. If you were stuck to white label, you'd be stuck to a platform essentially, and yeah, that flexibility wouldn't be there. So thanks for sharing that. In the marketing side of things, how has your MER, your marketing efficiency ratio, changed from 2020 when we spoke to date? Is it yielded, or has it remained consistent between the late 20s and very early 30s?
Yeah, it was out of control in 2022. It was all over the place. We could not get it under control. We had many outside vendors who were not performing well for us, and we were locked into contracts. So 2022 was a pretty significant problem. 2023 was a lot better and very consistent throughout the year. And when we see opportunities to scale and spend more money and to increase our marketing efficiency ratio, we are doing that. We are spending more money when we can be efficient. We're surprisingly seeing a lot of efficiency. Over about 90 days, we're seeing a ton of efficiency on YouTube. Some of our best numbers on YouTube in a long time. So we're spending a lot. We're shifting a lot of our budget, hundreds of thousands of dollars, into platforms that are performing well for us. I think historically, our channel efficiency has been inconsistent. I'd say over the last 18 months, it's been a lot more consistent. And that just takes a lot of time dialing it in, having the right people on the team, and really understanding truly how you're spending money and what your ROI is on that money.
Speaking of team, what's your approach? Do you have a marketing director on board? Do you work with a lot of agencies? Do you prefer to keep a marketing in-house, or what's the approach at Tiege?
Yeah, so we have a very strong in-house team. So my approach, which is admittedly, I think this is the harder approach, is to develop a strong internal team. So that's my approach. It's harder because getting really good talent on your team is super hard. But so is hiring really great agencies to support you. So I think they're both really difficult. It's a little easier to manage an agency than it is to figure out and hire good talent and then develop a team structure. But we prefer to develop it internally. So our team right now is, if I look across the board, it's just really good, like really smart, very skilled people that are very committed to the business, that are very clear about the objectives of the company, the mission of the company, where we're going to be in the next 12 to 24 to 36 months. We've developed, we do every few years. We just started in 2024, a new 3-year roadmap. So we're 8 months into a new 3-year roadmap, 5 very specific points in the 3-year roadmap. We have the company, everybody in the company is engaged in that roadmap. So very clear kind of what we're trying to do. And then when we do work with an outside vendor, we really are very intentional about the type of vendor we want and what their skill set is and how they operate. And unfortunately, it's come from being burned so many times and just not being very smart and intentional about who we're working with. So right now, when we want to make sure we're really aligned with an agency, so we only have.
And I guess there'll be like for content creation.
Yeah, we have an Amazon agency. We do our own Amazon ad buying in-house, and we do Amazon management, operational management in-house. We have an Amazon team that helps us like with our international expansion and taxation, things of that nature. We have some agencies that help us with like global registration of our products. And then we have a lot of content creation agencies that we use. We manage that in-house within the framework of Tiege Creative Studios. We have a creative studio with in-house and in-house people there. And then they manage a lot of our vendors. We have a lot of SaaS partners that are doing things for us, Klaviyo and things like that.
Yeah, because adaptability to ever-changing macro environment in the world of marketing is so important. We'll talk about TikTok Shop, how that has taken off, and most in-house teams don't have the capability or competency to really scale TikTok Shop, unless if you have a genius who just soaks up information and is almost an intro in your company.
Yeah.
So how do you seize new channel opportunities, given that you're very in-house centric?
Yeah. So the answer to that question is that this might be a bit of too much of a tell, but what we'd like to do is we would like to hire an agency. So let's talk about TikTok. We're doing well on TikTok. We have TikTok Shop. We're doing well on TikTok Shop. We do manage it through an external agency. So if we don't have the core competency in-house, we will hire an agency to help us. But the intent from day one is that whoever is going to be the lead on that channel internally, even via an agency, will work towards developing a skill set to manage that channel in-house at a very specific future date. So we'll be like, we're going to bring in an agency that's going to help us do this. We intend to engage this agency for a year's worth of time. And by summer of 2025, we expect our channel lead to have enough knowledge and learn enough knowledge from that agency that will be able to manage that in-house. And we will be pretty clear up front, maybe not explicit, but clear up front with the agency that we do intend to learn and to experience how they're managing process around that channel, with the intent of eventually taking over the channel in-house. So that's our approach.
Yeah, knowledge transfer, which is key. So again, it's taking that ethos of owning your formula from the operational standpoint, and from a marketing standpoint, actually owning the methodology and process in-house, even if you're getting the knowledge from a third party.
Yeah,
Love that. Love
it's
that.
kind of, it's like a combination of being a bit of a control freak and also being able to control your own destiny. It's like a combination of those things, because if you said it a minute ago, Kunle, if you don't have the knowledge in-house, then it's really hard to manage a partner. So I think like our strategy is to really truly understand a channel as much as possible so that we can have the flexibility of scaling that channel internally.
Final question in the P&L management side of things is just your investment priorities, particularly how they've shifted in recent years. And I want to understand whether you're a 70% D2Z company or whether you're more diversified, channel diverse. I think you're one of the first people who told me about like channel diversification, where you don't want, and that stuck with me for a while. Can you imagine 4 years on, where you're like, and I don't know whether you remember this, but you're like, your approach is not to make a channel sort of account for more than 25% of top line. You want to distribute it evenly. So is that still the case? Well, what are your investment priorities?
Yeah, all right. This is a big question. Answer the first part of the question the way you asked it. Our investment priorities is to invest in our people first. Right. So we want really fucking good people on our team. And that's extremely hard, to the extent that we can make sure that we have the right people on the team that'll allow us to get 5-year or 3-year roadmap, that we have the right talent that's going to help us get to that. Then I believe in product actually a lot. Product's really important to me. So our physical product, our physical formulations and science in our products really important to me, because if we don't have really great products that work really well, that guys love, we can sell that product all night and all day one time, but we can't sell it 2 times. And our business doesn't work unless people love our products. So we invest in people and we invest in physical product. And the way we invest in physical product is through our people. Like, we have an insane chief product officer, Fadi Murad, and he's been with us for several years, first as a consultant and full-time this year. And so we just have a really good product innovation roadmap and really trying to understand where we want to be with our product this year, next year, and the following year. On like in channel investment and channel diversity, if you have, so I learned this at my previous company, my second company that I created, which is a global advertising agency. And when you have services business, it's always like the 80-20 rule. 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. And that's a good thing while it lasts. But if you lose one of your big clients in the service industry that represents 50% of your revenue or more, things change really quickly, and not for the better, but for the worst. So making sure that you're diversified. And we learned the hard way here at Tiege. We had a big problem with Amazon several years ago. I think it was around 2021. We had problems with Amazon, and there were technical problems with some of our products. We were able to recover really quickly. We were able to recover in 60 days or less. But just you realize how dependent you are on income from a channel. And Amazon was under 20%. So it wasn't a huge thing, but 20% of our business was a pretty big deal. So to shut off 20% of our revenue for 60 days is very frightening. And you can't bounce back quickly from that. So being diversified in your channels is really important. What's really good is when all the channels are killing it. When all your channels are doing really well, that's the magic. Unfortunately, that's not usually the case. Usually some channels are doing well and other channels are not doing that well. So being diversified, being on TikTok, doing really well on paid, doing really well on meta properties, doing really well organically, micro, macro influencer, affiliates, all of these things, brand, doing very well on brand. When you're doing pretty well on 3 of the 5, then you're doing pretty well. When you're sucking on all of them, you're really in trouble. So I think and what we see, Kunle, is that we'll have a couple channels that are doing really well. Like through the quarter, these channels are performing very well for us and other channels are not. So we'll do 2 things. We'll try to figure out why a channel's not doing well for us. Is it the talent? Is it the creative? Is it the messaging? What is going on? Is it that we've changed something in how we're buying on that channel? Is it the data's not right? Is there a technical problem? Is something technically broken? We'll try to evaluate that. In the meantime, we'll be shifting dollars quickly into a channel that's performing for us. And that happens very quickly, like within a week or weeks, we'll be shifting dollars out of. And usually we have enough scale in our channels that we can effectively shift dollars. If you don't have scale in your channels and you're shifting dollars, there's no place to put the dollars in the channel that you're scaling towards. So you have to have enough scale in each one of your channels that you can shift. You need to have diversity first in your channels. And then secondly, you need to be able to shift money and have room to utilize additional capital in that channel. So that's what we're thinking about all the time.
That's a real key point in terms of getting to statistical significance through scale to know if it's working or not, and then shifting it really quickly. So what's your feedback loop? How often do you collect the data, and how often do you react to the data, and how do you even collect the data to make these decisions?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I wish I had a feeling for how data-driven other companies were from my pretty ignorant perspective, because I don't know where other companies are in their data game. I think we're incredibly knowledgeable when it comes to data within the company. We have our own data team, and we are looking I get a scorecard every day that's 1 page that tells me everything about our business. It's like everything, and it's all homegrown. It's something that we created ourselves. It talks about channel spend, channel efficiency from the day before, from the week before, from the month before, where we acquired customers yesterday. We're actually looking at performance by channel, and then we're understanding cost. We're looking at attrition of customers or return on customers on that channel. We're looking at a future 12-month earning on that channel, and then figuring out basically tomorrow how much money are we willing to spend on that channel to get like customers. And then 30 days from now, we're looking at whether or not our predictions on that channel were correct or not. And we're looking at 30 days from now, we're looking at today, and we're also looking at June 13th, which was 60 days, or July 13th, and we're looking at June 13th, 90 days. And we're looking to see if the assumptions that we made on those channels were correct or not. And then, of course, we're just every single day putting that back into the feedback loop to figure out how much money we can spend today to acquire customers and how efficient we are with our spend. If that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense, Kelley. So from a new customer acquisition standpoint, so from a CAC perspective, what's your North Star? Is it the purchase or is it the subscription? Because I'll speak for one of our businesses.
Sure.
When we're working with the agency, we essentially just focused on save and subscribe. Like, how many subscriptions is this as you work so delivered at a SKU level, so we understand what the growth is, and we chatted that over time. For Tiege, when the time we last discussed, you were like a 95% subscription rate. Has anything changed there from subscription?
It's pretty
standpoint?
similar to that. It really is. In terms of our top line revenue, on our domain, tiege.com, our subscription revenues in the high 80s, 87, 88% on a daily basis. Yeah, just back to this conversation, what we're doing, and you think about CAC, we're backing into CAC based on our channel specific cost, our cost of product, and how much it cost us to acquire that customer. We'll actually also include variable cost and fixed and variable marketing expense. And then because we have the benefit of having years and years of data, we're estimating the future value of that customer. And we're really good at it, like plus or minus 1% or 2%. It's that tight. It's plus or minus like 2%. And on the channel level, and based on the creative and the mix and the offer that someone bought. So for instance, if someone's comes in and they're a customer and they're coming in through Meta and they're buying on full price, or they're buying at 20% off, or they're buying something and getting a free gift, or they took a quiz and got a coupon, whatever it is. So each one of those customers we expect will perform differently. So we'll look at the behavior of each one of those customers and say, what's the likelihood that they'll receive another box from us, another box from us, another box from us? We can take that and predict a future 12-month earning. So we know the value of this gentleman named Kunle, who lives in this zip code, who bought on this offer through this channel. We'll have a very high predictive degree of what his worth is going to be to us. And that'll allow us to figure out how much money we want to spend to get more Kunles tomorrow. And that will drive our CAC. And the better we are at predicting it, the more comfortable we feel adjusting CAC guardrails on a daily basis. So we may be more than happy to spend whatever the number, I'm just throwing it out there, $50 today. And this week we may be happy to spend $50. Next week we may be happy to spend $75. And the following week we may only want to be spending $42. And that's exactly how we run our business.
Yeah, very CLTV driven, customer lifetime value driven. Does that mean, so from what I'm hearing from you, it means that customer preferences regarding subscriptions has essentially remained the same over the last 4 years, even though you've doubled the business?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's a damn good question. I actually think there's less subscription aversion today than there was before. Right. Because I think we're a modern day subscription company, and I think a lot of e-commerce companies have come to grips with, if they're going to be a subscription company, they really need to be customer focused and genuine with their customers. And we have a reputation out there that will do what's right for the customer. And if they sneeze and they're upset, we'll return their money, their cost of purchase. If they didn't get something, we'll help them. Yeah, and there's people out there that are abusing it. And we do a lot to monitor abusive customers. And we block them and we ban them. But most customers are I believe most people in the world are good. Maybe I'm naive, but that's what I believe. And so we treat everybody with kindness. And so I think that the value of having a subscription outweighs the hassle, right? People don't, in my mind, consumers do not have any concern about getting out of a subscription, right? Because the consumer is probably thinking, I'm going to get my bitch on and I'm going to get out of the subscription. And if I have to call 10 people to get it done, I'm going to get my bitch on and I'm going to do it, right? So I don't think consumers believe that they can't get out of a subscription. I think what consumers think about is how much hassle is it going to be? Like, how do I need to call 5 people, or can I just chat in with somebody or send an email and get my problem solved? If a consumer thinks that all they need to do is chat in or email or whatever, and they get an immediate response and we solve their problem right away, I think they're cool with subscriptions, because the benefit of it in my mind, as a consumer, outweighs the potential hassle of having to get my money back, right? I don't have to do anything. I can make changes easily. I can get what I want when I want it. It's more convenient than having to go to so the benefit of the subscription outweighs it as long as you make it super easy for the customer.
It's about convenience, speed, convenience, and that predictability. Could you paint me a picture of a customer? So take me, for instance, if I was to go into Tiege today and subscribe to a package, what should I expect? What's my customer experience? How have you crafted the customer experience? Do I get a welcome pack? Do I get direct mail in the post? What kind of emails and SMSs would I expect to get from Tiege? What's my conversation with Tiege like post subscription? How do you treat me?
Yeah, we're the routine company. We're routine experts. We really want you to be successful with your skincare routine. We want you to be successful in life, right? And we play a little bit of a part in that. So we want you to be successful. So we're going to try to help you. We're going to try to make sure that you have very high visibility to receiving your box. We want your customer experience on selecting what you selected and checking out really easy. And then we want to make sure that you had a good experience receiving your box. So that's super important to us. We want we pay a lot of attention to how long it takes for you to get your first order. And we're paying super close attention to what you're doing between placing the order and receiving that order. So we're paying attention to whether or not you're making changes, you're changing your shipping address, you're doing all kinds of stuff. So we're paying attention to all that. And then we're welcoming you in to try to understand how to how to be successful and have healthy skin and get good results. So we're helping you with all that. And then we're talking to you about the value of being a subscriber and what it is that you will receive from us. So those are the main things we're doing.
Interesting. And then from a channel mix perspective, you obviously D2C, you have an Amazon front, you mentioned a TikTok shop. Are you also brick and mortar? Do you have any distribution deals, or is it just those 3 channels?
But we do not. We just started our wholesale journey. It's part of
international wholesale or domestic?
Domestic U.S. wholesale. We just started. There's another reveal. It's one of our 5 pillars on our 3-year growth plan. In June, we hired our first, again, not outsourcing to a sales agency. We decided to hire in-house. We hired an in-house wholesale manager, global wholesale manager, who we are thinking about global, but we want to get our feet under ourselves. And actually, we made great progress. So starting in January, we know we're already going to be in several hundred stores of a sizable U.S. retailer. And there is an appetite out there for our products to be sold at retail. And this just goes right to what we were talking about earlier. I think it's important to diversify. And so we want to be diverse in our channels. The DTC business isn't growing at 25% year over year. Maybe the wholesale business is growing at 20% year over year. I don't know, because we're not there, but we do want to be diversified, but we want to be very thoughtful about how we do it. Like, the goal isn't to be in every door that we can be. It's to be in the right stores and to be profitable.
That's right. That's phenomenal. One point I wanted to make about TikTok Shop is just the fact that it's not mature enough to support save and subscribe or any form of subscription. How are you tackling that?
This is what I think. And actually, I'm very bullish on TikTok Shop. I actually think that the mindset for us brands should be that it's not a competitor of Google or Meta. So it is not a Google or Meta. It's which is where my mind was for a long time on it. It's really a direct competitor of Amazon.
It is.
I think I firmly believe that ByteDance is after Amazon. They're not after Meta. I think it's really important to have a really good TikTok shop strategy and to really seriously consider it as a distribution channel like Meta, like Amazon, and begin your journey with them. And it's going to be, if it's going to be anything like Amazon, it's going to be a long haul and trying to figure out how to be on there, how to have a great shop, and how to grow that shop over time. Understanding that right now, TikTok Shop owns the customer. They own the customer. I guess you have the customer address, but realizing that they're here to stay and they're here to compete against Amazon. And so you better get on the platform and you better figure out how to play within the guardrails that the TikTok shop is set up and hopefully have a successful shop. I think it's clear how you can be on that platform and win. It's early, in my opinion, right? It's very early. So I think having a great strategy and building TikTok shop and committing to it for the long haul is really important.
Okay. Sorry. I realized I was just talking to myself because I was on mute.
Yeah, I had an audio problem there, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, but that's okay.
Okay. So
you ask the question again.
So your audio has changed. I'm going to just mark this and bookmark this clip so we don't lose. So your audio has changed. So the quality of your audio has dropped.
Yep, I'm going to fix that right now.
Okay.
And I apologize for that.
No worries.
I was trying to shuffle off there why I lost you. I didn't realize what the problem was. There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can, but I think you're still using your computers.
Just see.
Okay. So it does say you're using your, okay. We'll proceed.
I think it's better now.
It's better. Yeah, so I was saying that it's interesting where Meta is going in comparison to ByteDance. I was listening to the Q2 earnings report 2024 where Meta and Mark Zuckerberg was talking about how they're doubling down on Meta AI. They've been investing a lot on AI to improving the just time spent, engagement, and performance of their platforms when the platforms are interacting with customers. So now they're creating a chat GPT kind of lookalike called Meta AI, and they're throwing a lot of resources at that. Meanwhile, ByteDance seem to be focusing more on commerce on their TikTok shop. Since they solved the attention challenge, TikTok will hold you as a user for hours, for minutes, if not hours. So it's interesting how diverse or how different their strategies are at the moment. But one thing I'd like to see TikTok Shop have is a save and subscribe option, clear save and subscribe, where you're able to essentially subscribe to a brand. But they're also quite good, anecdotally speaking, when you purchase something if you purchase a beauty product from Meta or a skincare product from TikTok, TikTok is quite good at retargeting you again. And it would incentivize you to get that second purchase through. And it's quite persuasive, and I think it works.
Yeah, I concur with everything you said. My comment on the subscription aspect of TikTok Shop, to me, it will only be a matter of time. TikTok has been very deliberate if you really looked at kind of how they've rolled out things. And to me, there seems like there's no expectation that there should be an expectation that they'll have the ability to do subscribe and save over time.
Absolutely. They have the know-how for sure. Okay, once you swiftly move on to influencer marketing, at the time you essentially had a brand ambassador. It was Aaron Marino. It was a significant part in Tiege's early success. Can you share why he's no longer the face of the brand? What led to this change and how has it impacted the brand's identity and marketing strategy?
Yeah, first off, Aaron Marino is intimately involved in the brand. He's engaged with the brand on a daily basis. So he is still a very high minority stakeholder in the brand. He sits on our stakeholder board. So he's a critical person in the brand, and he's a very savvy marketer and a very savvy businessman. So he's very engaged in the brand. I think he is, and not only that, the brand is very fortunate to have Aaron be so engaged early on in helping us develop and grow the brand. without him, we wouldn't be where we're at today.
Hmm.
So with all that being said, there's a natural, this again goes back to the channel conversation. There's a natural ebb and flow of every channel. There is, and there's a natural ebb and flow of content and content creators. And, Aaron created content for us for many years. He still creates content for us regularly, but the type of content that he's creating for us is changing a little bit. So he's not talking on our YouTube channel regularly.
Okay.
Really, the blog on our YouTube channel is really about the making of our brand and what we were doing with the brand every week. And we felt that content got to the point where it wasn't as relevant to our customers anymore. Aaron and I and our business partner, Rob, decided that we weren't going to continue making that kind of content. And Aaron has made a lot of content that he's presented to his YouTube channel for many years. And we just felt collectively between Aaron and Rob and I that we weren't going to rely so much on Aaron's YouTube channel to help us grow our business. We've leaned less on Aaron, and it's been not just 1 year, it's been year after year. We've relied less on Aaron to grow the business, and we've relied more on our ability to be good marketers to grow the business. And so that's it. You don't see Aaron. I don't know. I'm sure there's images of him on our website. There's some videos of him somewhere on our website, but he's just not front and center to everybody. And that's okay. It's good for our brand and it's good for Aaron. We need to be broader and bigger than just one person, bigger than me, bigger than Rob, and bigger than Aaron. We need a brand that's going to be sustainable around the world.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff there. So what's your influencer marketing strategy?
We create 300 to 400 pieces of content every month. And we're creating content with people that are great at delivering content that we think our customers are looking for. So if our customers are looking for a specific type of content, our goal is to be engaged and embedded in that content that they're interested in. And we need to be talking about what is important to teach, which is skincare. So we're producing an exorbitant amount of content all the time that is relative to men and talking about skincare.
Okay, makes sense. And then how's it funneled, the 300 to 400 pieces of content you create? Is it purely paid, or do you also use it organically?
Both. We have paid contracts where we're doing it's just being used on our content providers' channels. And sometimes we're doing things that are being used across all channels. It's everything. Sometimes we're using it solely on organic channels. We use content everywhere, and it's different in form and function.
Okay, makes sense. We're going to jump into some wrap-up questions, so we get this going. So what is the future outlook? Just looking ahead, what your next big milestone? You talked about your 5-year plan for Tiege. How do you plan?
The outlook is super bright. It is great. Our brand is strong. Our economics are strong. Our team is strong. The market is maturing and more guys are interested in taking care of themselves. We're very well positioned to be market leaders. I don't see anything but all arrows up and to the right. I think we, as a brand, have a lot of work to do. Things that we talked about briefly on this roadmap, such as product and launching great innovative products. We have a lot of work to do and being better known in the market, right? Having more visibility. More people around the world become familiar with our brand and want to trust us to try our brand to be their go-to skincare brand for dudes. I think the future is very bright. If we want to be specific, we see a continued global expansion, we see product expansion, we see brand expansion, we see U.S. marketplace expansion, lots of opportunities ahead.
Expansion. So
yes.
Speaking of international expansion, would you going to have a local UK presence or local European presence?
I would love to. We do really well in the UK and we'd love to have presence there in the UK. We do very well in Europe, so we'd like to be there too. And so I think, it's definitely on the roadmap.
Okay, good stuff. Given everything you've learned since our last conversation, what's one piece of advice you'd like to give to aspiring entrepreneurs, especially those looking to scale their D2C beauty businesses in 2024?
Do it, man. Get after it right away. Be prepared for a grind, but get after it right away. I'll probably say the same thing that I would say to you back several years ago is creating that voice in the market. It's really hard. We were just talking about Aaron and how important he was for Tiege and is to Tiege. So having a great voice, figuring out how you're going to have a voice in the marketplace and how you're activating on that is really important. So get out there and figure that out.
Yeah. That sure has been your unfair advantage in this really competitive world of men's skincare, men's grooming. So final thoughts, is there anything we haven't covered that you think is important for our listeners just to know about Tiege or the men's grooming?
Talk about Tiege. Look, I think it's important for all guys. So if we talk about Tiege, I think it's really important for guys to be thinking about how they're going to have healthy lives, take care of themselves, mind, body. So having a healthy skincare is really important. I prefer to use our products, but if you're going to get out there and use Kiehl's or somebody out there, Lab Series, or it's globally known that produces good products, not as good as ours, that offer sunblock protection like SPF. It's really important for guys to get out there and to embark on a skincare journey. For marketers, I think 2024 has been a lot harder year than we all anticipated. I think consumers came off of COVID, spent a lot of money, and have been really fatigued by inflation, and we need some help on what inflation looks like. Q4 looks solid. I'm very bullish on it, and I think if we could get behind the U.S. election and we could quiet down some of the noise that's in the world, it's incredible that 2024 we still have wars raging everywhere, and if we could quiet down a little bit and consumers can feel better about the future, it would bode really well for us in 25.
Yeah. And there's this YouTube shopping channel now, which essentially puts YouTube into the mix as a viable channel. So I'm really looking forward to that one too. Kelley, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the 2X eCommerce podcast. For people who want to find out more about Tiege, it's tiege.com, tiege.com. I'll link to it in the show notes. You're active on LinkedIn. I'll link to your LinkedIn profile. This was really good. 4 years was a bit too long. Maybe next time we'll catch up in another 18 or 24 months. What do you reckon?
Hopefully another 2 years max.
Okay. All right. Cheers. And thank you so much for being so open. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me.
Okay. All done. Really appreciate it. Great convo. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of the 2X eCommerce podcast. I hope you found my conversation with Kelley Thornton insightful, especially on how Tiege has successfully scaled while maintaining strong profitability. For smart cost management, from smart cost management to the importance of diversification, there's a lot to learn from any e-commerce operator. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the 2X eCommerce podcast on your preferred platform. Your support helps us bring more incredible guests and content to help you grow your business. Don't forget to leave a review and share this episode with fellow operators who could benefit from Kelley's insights. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of e-commerce. Thank you for listening.